Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Space Game Junkie podcast. I, as always, am your co-host, Brian, and joining me, as always, is your co-host, Jim.
Woo! First reply.
First. Your co-host, Hunter.
Second.
Okay. And your co-host, Spaz.
Brought to you by microtransactions.
You know what?
we had to pay extra for Spaz.
He's our extended.
But
season pass.
He came with such a nice hat and this really cool jacket and and these really cool purple boots. That just I've been playing a lot of the Division, and there is some of the wackiest clothes in there for like an apocalypse.
Yeah. Like the cosmetic stuff in that game is so pointless.
It's kind of fun, but it's very stupid.
I need those military boots, man. Just it'll complete the whole outfit.
I know you got to look the part. So hello everyone. How y'all doing? Tonight we are talking about a topic recommended to us by our community member Fermian Ace. I don't remember your real name, Fermian. I'm sorry, Firm. I'll just call you Firm. Or Ace.
The Firminator.
Call him.
Terminating the people.
What was that? What was Ace Rimmer? I'll call him Ace Rimmer from Red Dwarf. Have you guys seen that? Have you guys seen Red Dwarf with?
It's been a while, but yeah.
Yeah. Smoke me a kipper.
1 sec.
Okay, smoke me a kipper. I'll be back for breakfast. He says, quote, if it hasn't already been done, it might be interesting to have an episode where you and your co-hosts discuss how the trends in DLC over the past few years have impacted the ability to get into games after they've been out a while. And I thought that was an interesting tack because we talked about DLC about 3 years ago. And I think the consensus was pretty much that we hate most of it. Unless it like is like expansion level DLC.
Yeah, it really depends, you know?
Yeah, like there's a lot of like we're going to talk about Paradox a lot tonight because they run the gamut of pretty much every type of DLC. It's so confusing now. They not only have like the songs and whatnot, but they have story packs for Stellaris and actual expansions. It's really confusing. So we're going to talk about Paradox a lot, but there are also a lot of games that have expansions and DLC. So it is an interesting tack to think about which games might be more approachable with or without their DLC. And I've got in my head some that do it right and do it wrong. What about you guys though? Do any come to mind? Like let's start with the negative. Let's get that out of the way. Can you think of any game where you think if you don't have the DLC, you're not getting the full experience? I can think of a few.
Yeah. I mean, you look at some of like the way the AAA stuff is going now, because right off the bat, when you buy a game, in a lot of ways, you're instantly asked if you also want to buy the season pass because it's going to be all this other content.
Oh my god!
And then what ends up happening is anywhere, and it varies on game and how popular it is. But anywhere from like 3 to 6 months later, you can get like all of that content for way cheaper. But like right out the gate, you know, they're charging anywhere for like the full experience of the game, which is the base game plus the season pass. $70 to $100 to $120. And I remember the first time we saw a major iteration of that was with Titanfall 1 was the first time I remember seeing it stick out to me, where if you wanted the full experience of that game, you had to shell out, you know, like $120. And that's kind of weird because like you're essentially paying for content that hasn't even come out yet or isn't even available yet, but you're paying up front for when it is available, you'll just get it. And part of me thinks that's okay, but it's also playing a gamble, because what if that content's not even that good? And that ultimately bothers me, because if you want the full experience of the game, especially like if you've got friends who've been playing it for, like, let's say it's really good, and let's use Star Wars Battlefront as an example here. Let's say you've got Star Wars Battlefront, maybe it's really good multiplayer. The first one's been out for a year. All your friends have already been playing it for so long. They've got all the content, but you're not sure you want to buy everything, but you get into the base stuff, but you can't play all the extra content or all the hero missions that they're playing because you don't have that. And so you are limited, because there are new things that are added to the game, new modes that get added to the game later after release. And they're still selling, part of a game. So it's interesting. Like, I don't know. Like, there's parts of that where it's like, that's good and that's bad. Oh.
No, I hear you, and it's kind of interesting in the case of Titanfall, because I kind of feel like they learned their lesson with that, and so Titanfall 2 got all of their content for free. And I think that was received. Well, I mean, you get stuff for free; it's clearly received better, but I think that did a lot to repair the damage that. Exactly what you talked about, all that weird DLC for Titanfall did.
Titanfall had like a two-parter to that, right? So it wasn't just like the DLC and the season pass thing right out the gate. It was the quality of the content itself, specifically with, like, they said, oh, it's got a single player campaign. Or it's got a campaign in it, but it's really not what you would normally call a campaign. It's really just normal, combat arenas, like with you're playing, like if you're doing normal like a Slayer match or like a team death match or something like that. That's essentially what it is, with some dialogue over top of it to give a little bit of exposition to the plot line. And you just play through a few missions of that, and then you do it from the other side's perspective, and then you unlock a couple of the extra Titans, and then that's it. Like, there's really nothing there.
It's kind of like an extended tutorial for the multiplayer.
Right, but it's still multiplayer. That was the thing. Like, it wasn't even like a single player experience or story campaign. It was just multiplayer with some exposition. And I was like, you can get that, like I get that in Battlefront too. Like, if I'm playing a multiplayer match, there's a little bit of like exposition at the beginning, and there's like people talking to me, in my ear, like I'm, supposed to be paying attention to what's going on with the plot. Although I'm playing a mission that never actually happened in any of the movies. So it's just kind of like, what's the point? But that aside, they did redeem themselves in Titanfall 2 by a long shot. Like, it was amazing how much redemption they gave themselves with a single player campaign for that game, because Titanfall 2's story was pretty stellar.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I think it was a disservice, unfortunately. Like, a lot of people were like on skip it mode with 2 because. Yeah. 1 was what it was, and 1 was good for what it was, but very much like the Battlefield or Call of Duty Black Ops 4 that's coming, that's going to be no single player. It's like, no, guys, come on. We already saw that happen. It was called Titanfall. You should learn. And in fact, that's Infinity Ward, isn't it? That did that. Yeah. So, yeah. So it's like, that apple's not very far from the tree. So I would hope that they would have figured it out, but I guess not. Multiplayer only experiences don't seem to do well like that not when you have a really cool world and people are like, damn, I want to have some single player.
Well, that was kind of like the whole idea in my mind about Titanfall, which was like, this is a new, unique experience. This is like Call of Duty, but with mechs, which, we've never really had before.
Turns out nobody wanted, though, when Call of Duty actually did it themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Although there's something to be said though for their space-based one that they did recently that I played through that I kind of enjoyed. I mean, it was 8 hours of gameplay, not a lot, nothing compelling, but
I liked it more than the other ones just because the setting was something different.
But the Titanfall campaign was about that long as well. The Titanfall 2 campaign, I mean. So
yeah, I'm saying I like these things for the reason that the air quotes community says that they hate it. Right? It's like, well, no, it appeals to me. But the Call of Duty guys, they're just like, we want Call of Duty 4 re-released every year. New maps and prettier.
Yeah, why can't you Skyrim this?
Yeah. If they were smart, they would, and they'd be making the money, right? Because
Alexa, play Call of Duty.
You have a rifle and 2 clips. What would you like to do?
Exactly.
I actually
have that. I actually have that Alexa Skyrim. I play it every now and then on Alexa. It's actually kind of entertaining.
Alexa, teabag that guy.
You have entered the bunker. It is dark. You might be eaten by a grue.
Exactly.
Alexa, are there any bad guys around? There are 3 bad guys. Shoot them.
Alexa, deploy UAV.
Shoot them with the cheese.
But yes, so that's my bad example of like the DLC thing that was interesting, and really the only reason why I got Titanfall 2 was for the single player because actually they're like, we heard you, we're putting in an actual single player this time, and they did a fantastic job. I could care less about the multiplayer or any of that nonsense. I some games I enjoy multiplayer, some games I'm just like, give me a solid story and a campaign to play through and let me have fun. So,
you mean like Battlefront 2?
That's a good example, though.
No, that's the
I was saying Hunter's example is a good example.
Yeah. Well, the thing between Battlefront and Battlefront 2 with these the remakes of Battlefront and Battlefront 2 is that the first one didn't have anything other than just multiplayer stuff, and people really wanted kind of like, because you look at that engine and you're like, give us a real game in this, please. Like, can we get KOTOR like this? Come on. And because it does look beautiful, that engine that they made those Battlefront games, you're just like, this is gorgeous. But unfortunately, for the most part, that's all it's really got going for it, because like a lot of the multiplayer just does not keep my attention because of the way that they've kind of gone the route with the multiplayer. And then while I was playing the single player with that game, while it was fun and I personally enjoyed it, there were times when I was going through it where I just kept getting reminded of better like Star Wars games. Anytime I was doing any of the flight stuff, I was like, man, I wish we had like an X-Wing game that looked like this. Or, if I was playing as Luke Skywalker, I was like, man, I wish there was like a Jedi Knight game that was like this. So
yeah.
It leaves you feeling wanting because it's a pretty game, but it's not very deep. And you get tired of it very quickly because there is very little depth there.
And I think that's, sorry to get on a little tangent here. I do think that's part of the dilemma with the AAA developer companies right now is they're trying to mass market and appeal to everybody. So they want to make things that are going to make them money, and making a super deep depthy game is not necessarily going to do that. But then I think to myself, KOTOR, how famous was that? They could do something so easily like that, and I guarantee it would sell. Just make it deep, Give them, we're not talking 8 hours here. I mean, we're gonna need, upwards of like 30 to 60 easy.
I wonder if they'd rather put those resources into their MMO, because that's like a service instead of a game that people will pay for continuously.
That goes into the trend of making games as a service, which is an unfortunate thing that also ties into this DLC issue.
It's true. Like I'll be honest, I keep eyeing Wildlands. Was that Ghost Recon Wildlands?
Yeah.
But it's like it's got so much DLC. It's like
No.
I'll
That
wait.
is a case.
I'll
That is
wait.
a case where the DLC matters zero.
Really?
Because the good part of the game, which is the campaign that you can co-op through in that, the DLC is not adding things into that. It's like side mission things that you cannot play in co-op through that.
Wait, what?
You can't play it as part of the main campaign. It's not like, oh, we added like 10 more missions that you do as part of the story. No, it's standalone DLC stuff. So yeah, Wildlands is good. It's probably like the shooter for you.
Okay.
If ever there was a Call of Duty Skyrim, that's it.
Ooh, I think you just sold me. But I got the Division because it had its gold pack with all of its DLC for like $14. Yeah, that was a much easier choice.
Yeah. What level are you?
6.
Okay, so if you try to group up with my level 10 guy, you'll get one shot
It's a bad idea.
instantly. Yeah.
I'm gonna have a bad time.
That's the only fault that I have about that game at all is that they did not put any kind of level matching. Yeah. So if you and I are like 2 levels different, well, my guys will be like 8 and your guys will be 6. But as soon as you join my mission, then all your enemies are level 8 and you're not ready for it because like 1 level makes a little difference. About 3 levels makes a you're dead difference.
Right.
Yeah, Wildlands scales a bit better than that. So
yeah, Wildlands doesn't seem to even really have that kind of a gear score thing going on.
But to be fair, the way that they did the Division is you can play primarily solo by yourself through the story, which will get you up to a very specific level. And then from there, you go into the min-maxing stats and like the secondary stuff, which is where you can queue up with other people. And I mean, you can technically queue up with other people in single player as well and do like a co-op kind of thing. But like Jim said, you have to be the same level in order to do that, or else if, you know, I'm helping you through your story and you're level 6 and I join you and I'm level 30, it's going to be all level 30 and you're just not going to do anything. You're going to die.
That's a weird design decision. It's a weird.
Yeah, no, I would have preferred it more like Skyrim or something, or actually EverQuest did it. Yeah, EverQuest did it the best though.
Really?
Because the high level person would get brought down to your level. If you're level 6, somebody that's level 50, they called it the mentor system, and the level 50 person becomes level 6 while they're running around with you, but they're like a level 6 plus, right?
Yeah, because
they've got all their. They've still got all their powers and stuff.
And
it just scales their damage down to where you're even. Yeah, and the thing that's great is they don't get XP while they're doing that with you, but they do get a multiplier. Like, you know, you get 15% extra XP for an hour for every hour that you were mentoring somebody that was low, something like that.
I like that.
So there's a definite incentive to doing it.
That's a really great way to do it. I really like that.
Yeah, plus because you're not getting XP while you're doing it, that lets your friends actually catch up. Because you get a bonus if I'm mentoring you. You get that 15% extra, and then whenever I'm done doing it, I get it.
I might have to check this EverQuest game out. I actually never played it. So.
Oh yeah, EverQuest 2. It's good. And you don't even need the DLC or anything.
Yeah, and
the freemium way they did it is okay.
EverQuest 2 has been around as long as like
a billion years. It's been around at least since the early aughts, right?
Yeah, when that game first came out, my computer was sweating trying to play it. And
now you're trying to like figure out, can I fix the textures?
So, Spaz, do you have a game that you don't like its DLC model that's like kind of prohibited, you find prohibitive to like recommending it to people?
Well, it depends. I mean, you can look at a game like Earth Defense Force 4.1, and most of its DLC is cosmetic in nature because it gives you no real benefits. There are mission packs. There are 2 mission pack DLCs that they put out with it. And those are great to have. Absolutely. You got to have those if you're going to play the game.
I did totally buy those along with the base game recently.
Right,
it's
right.
So good, by the way.
Right. And the game itself is great. Don't get me wrong. It's we're going to be playing it on Thursday. It's really hilarious fun.
Yes.
But one of the DLCs is a tank that has a skin on it. And in place of the main cannon, it has a water gun, a literal water gun that does almost no damage and will probably get you killed if you use it. But it's there. You can buy it.
Why? It's like I want to
because it's a joke weapon. It's literally a joke weapon.
I want to insert that Ryan Reynolds gif, but why?
You know,
what I like the one. It's the tank that's got the anime girls on it and the teddy bears.
Well, that's one of them. Yeah, that is one of them.
That's the only one for me.
But you see, that's an interesting thing you bring up, Spaz. Is I think, you know, certain DLC and depending on the game, right? Like if I have the DLC that gives me this gun skin, it's still the same gun. You could have that gun, but my gun looks different. But if you want your gun to look like this, you have to pay 49 cents for the skin.
That brings up, there's actually some manipulation that's gone into certain games. I won't name names offhand, but they match you with someone who has paid for that particular cosmetic DLC in an effort to actually get you to buy that DLC.
Right. Well, there is that too. There's also there is that. But I'm just saying, like in general, it'd be nice if, you know, certain games that you play more often than not. Well, and here's a good example of this, like Stellaris, for example. Like if Jim, no, I don't think, maybe Stellaris doesn't do it. I was thinking like there's a game, if somebody has like the expansion and the other person doesn't, whoever, does that. Yeah, if you're hosting and you have the DLC and the other person doesn't, you can still play. And you get to experience all of that stuff too, which is good because it could also sell that DLC. But that doesn't limit you, because what that then means is all those assets are already in your game. They get patched in. You just have to pay to unlock it, which I find that fascinating.
Yeah, it doesn't segregate the community when certain games do that. That is a good thing.
But what's annoying though is when you get a game like Doom that's like, well, also we're going to download about 40 gigs of multiplayer, whether you want to play multiplayer or not, plus all the DLC for the multiplayer. And it's like, man, you're just eating up my disk here. Come on. I wish there was a way to tell it, no, don't install that.
Yeah, unfortunately, in those kind of regards, there's not. I know that Call of Duty tried to experiment with that at one point, where you could just buy the base game, or you could just buy the multiplayer. And I thought that was an interesting concept, but I think people kind of got turned off from that idea. But at the same time, you would think that would also be a smart thing to do. Like if I no longer want the single player stuff, but how much of that is really added, like BS to your system, when a lot of the same textures and, you know, guns and stuff like that are all reused anyway? I mean, is it really 40 gigs of extra stuff, or were you just exaggerating?
Oh, I don't know how much it is. It's a lot. It's maybe
not 40. It is a lot. I was just kind of curious because
like half the way to the install.
That reminds me of the thing that came out today, the Red Faction Guerrilla, the new version. The original version is 8 gigs. This new version is like 36.
And the premise for that is
bigger
stupid.
Textures.
Like, why would there even be gorillas on Mars?
Oh, Jim, you troll.
Cue Debbie Downer music. Anyway. See, there are a few games I think of.
/ our dad jokes.
Gorillas in the Mist on Mars.
When I think of some games that I don't think do DLC well, Stellaris is definitely one that comes to mind. It's very confusing. But then I think of things like, what's that train sim game that has like $4,000 of DLC?
Yeah, some of those sim games get obnoxious with the DLC. I mean, oh, what's the like military sim one?
Arma.
No. I'm thinking of the
DCS.
Yeah, the DCS game. So
Oh,
you
yeah.
get that
Even
get
on
that base game for free, right? You get the base for free. And you
Yeah,
can play
but even
like
on
a
sale,
Cessna.
those expansions are expensive.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. So like you can get, they have like packs, right, where you can get like a couple of planes, but it's still like $30 for like a pack of 3 planes. Or if you want to buy just the F-18, it's like $80, and you're like, what? So
Yeah, it's the lo-fi versus hi-fi planes. It's the lo-fi ones are basically the ones from Lock On, which was the previous game, ported forward into this. So they don't have like clickable cockpits and all the radar modes and everything. But then if you get into like the A10C or the F-18, or God, they've got a lot of them now. They're up to, I don't know, 10, 12 planes now.
So I just looked. Train Simulator has 460 some pieces of DLC, and even on sale, if you wanted to add them all to your cart, it's $4,300 and some dollars, and that's with the sale going on right now.
Yeah, that's a no, Ghost Rider.
look, I like trains, but I don't like them that much.
Yeah, trains are great, but I mean, what?
Just get one of those waifu pillows with a train on it. You'll be fine.
Oh,
But
Jesus Christ. I'm too tired for that
Yeah.
kind of joke. Okay.
Well, no. It's a giant body pillow, essentially, with a train on it.
I know what it is. Oh my
Not
God.
bad. There's nothing bad with that. Anyway.
Okay.
yeah, so the DLC stuff in that does discourage me from it, because I'm just like, well, what is actually in the game if you have 400 pieces of flair that are outside? Like, what am I actually getting in the main game? It seems like all of the game must be external.
I'm wondering, though, to be honest with you, I'm wondering in these kind of situations with these super high-end simulators like DCS and that train sim, I'm wondering if it's a licensing thing. Like, I'm wondering if there's something to do with licenses of having those in there or something or another.
Well, the way it works with DCS is it's actually different developing studios that are building the aircraft, and they just build them as best they can, as fast as they can. So it's basically just somebody would be like, hey man, we're guys that made Falcon mods, and we're gonna bring an F-16 in here, and they give you the nod. It's like, okay, here's the standards you have to adhere to, and then you can do that. That's like how the F-18 came to be.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now all that train simulator stuff, I don't know. I mean, it's like
all over the place.
If you look at the flight sim community, though, for like Flight Simulator 10, right? There's an entire industry around making mods for, paid mods for that, and some of those things are expensive. It's like, oh, you want these dope trees? Yeah, that's $20 for this new tree texture. Man, you can spend thousands of dollars on Flight Simulator.
That's been a thing for so long, though. When I used to write for the print magazine PC Pilot like 18 years ago, and there was even a section back then for third-party add-ons. You had to buy them through discs and stuff, but it's kind of weird how all that's evolved. Like X-Plane and Microsoft Flight Sim have tons and tons of airports and planes. It's like, where do you jump in?
Yeah.
Well,
and then there's like Destiny that Hunter and I have been playing a lot of recently. Destiny is really cool, but you get to the point in the main game where it's like, okay, we did this. I didn't need the DLC to start, but you definitely hit a spot where it's like, okay, I have a hard stop right here, and then my friends who have the DLC continue to play, and I'm stuck at that point. There's like things really? I can't do.
Yeah. Well. Yes and no. Yes and no. So there's it's like an MMO in that regard. For example, I'll give you a really great example. So World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft, when it came out, it had a base level cap, I believe, of like what 40 or 50 when it first came out.
I think so.
You get that. You get that next expansion. It was Burning Crusade or whatever.
Yeah, they take you up 10 levels per. They're up to like level 100 now.
110 or 20 or something like that now. But the point I'm trying to make though is if you didn't get that expansion, you couldn't have a character that went up to that next set of levels. You couldn't do that content yet. You could still keep playing. You could still keep doing the things that you were doing throughout the first game. You just couldn't do any of that new content in that expansion. Yeah. So this is a lot like that in regards to how they do it, because you have all of your city hubs and you have all of the different streets where you can run around and you can see all the other players and you can play with them and they can play with you. But there is a certain point, though, that if you want to keep playing any new content or like keep playing with your friends, it's the same kind of thing. You do need to get the DLC and play the new sections of content in order to keep moving on. There's like new dungeons, there's new types of dungeons, and so it's very much like an MMO in that regard, and that model works for this, in my opinion.
I've actually...
Yeah, it kind of does.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
So, like, while it sucks because it's like this is the base game, you're not because they definitely divide the game up well. There's PvP zones. If you want to do PvP, you go to those zones. But it's not like an open world PvP where you're shooting at other players all the time. The bulk of the game is all PvE co-op with other players, which is great, and the way that they kind of do all that stuff. But the story stuff and the expansions and the DLC that they've done, because they've got 2 so far, and they've got a 3rd one coming out soon. I feel like the way that they've handled it is pretty well for what it is.
Well, that's good. I mean, I just got Destiny 2 from the Humble Monthly, but I haven't had the opportunity to try it. I mean, I probably will.
Well, let me put it let me put it to you like this: Destiny 2, take like a lot of the good elements from Borderlands 2.
Okay.
There's a lot of really great mechanics with Borderlands 2 and how they kind of do things. You can co-op real easy. You can join up with people real easy. But you can also just like play alongside other players in PvE only out in the open world. So like there's world events that happen like every hour or whatever, and it's just like a group of other players trying to take down a big boss together. So it's a lot of fun in that regard. And then so you take the Borderlands 2, you mix in like a little bit of the Halo style gunplay. Add a little RPG elements to it with like your leveling up and you're customizing your gear and stuff like that and crafting. It's not an overly complex game. It's not very deep, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll probably load it up once I get a better machine with more hard drive space. I'm like so low on hard drive space right now. But I do want to try it. So let's turn it around. Like, what do you guys think is a game that does DLC well? Like, you're excited about the DLC. You want more DLC. They're doing a good job with it. Do you guys have any games that come to mind that
Everspace?
Okay, that's the interesting about Everspace. It had one piece of DLC, and that's it, and it was an expansion.
Yeah, and actually, I've been on their Discord, and they've said that they are approaching the end of the development cycle for Everspace. So it's not likely that they're going to put out any more DLC, but they're already working on another game at this point.
Oh, I would love it if like they went kind of back to their Galaxy on Fire roots and made like...
Probably not, because that license is held by...
I'm saying it doesn't have to be another Galaxy on Fire game, but I would love it if like they went more the privateery route is what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
The freelancery route.
Yeah, Galaxy on Fire 3, for those who don't know, is made by a different team than the one who made Galaxy on Fire 1 and 2, because the bulk of the team that made Galaxy on Fire 1 and 2 went on to make Everspace.
Right. Which is, I think that confuses a lot of people.
So once they're actually done with the game, is that time when you go on Steam and you post the game's dead, the developers have abandoned it, they're working on another game for a review, because
Yeah, I mean they've actually said they're approaching the end of the development cycle for it, and that's cool. They're still going to keep updating with patches and whatnot, but as far as content goes, they're focusing on the next game. They haven't said anything about what that will be yet, but
damn it.
Yeah, I'm just poking fun at the
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
On Steam, and they're like, this game's dead. It's like the game has been out for 5 years. Yeah, well, it's not early access.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because you brought it up earlier about the whole games as a service thing, and part of me is like, well, that's an interesting concept, and I think for some games that model would work, but I think as a whole, the gaming community, if they continue to like press that mindset onto every game, then like, because like Skyrim, people keep talking about Skyrim all the time, but they haven't added new content to that game since ever, but yet it's still popular,
So let me drop this on you, right? Because this is a thought that I had today while I was trapped in the DMV for 4 hours. It gave me a lot of time to think.
What were you? Side note: what were you doing at the DMV for 4 hours?
Trying to renew my driver's license because it was my birthday.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Happy birthday!
Yeah. So, anyways,
yes, happy birthday.
What I was thinking is games like Skyrim, right, where they just continue to sell Skyrim, and people just want more Elder Scrolls, right? But every time, okay, so we did Skyrim, and then if we do a new Elder Scrolls game, then we need a new engine, we need all new assets, we can't set it in the same place, right? So the whole map has to get redone or whatever. So it's like Far Cry 4 to Far Cry 5. Well, they did Far Cry 4.5, which was the Far Cry caveman thing, right? And people were bitching like, they used the same map as Far Cry 4. Who freaking cares, dude? This is like cavemen, and you get a pet tiger, and this has nothing to do with the other game. It just so happens that the terrain underneath it is similar, right? Because they use it's the height map stuff, like the rest of it you can't look at it and just be like, oh yeah. But if you look at an aerial map of the two games, it's like, oh okay, I see, it's based on that map. People just had a riot, but what I look at is development.
I heard it was really good. I heard
it is.
Primal
I bought
really
it.
Good.
Oh yeah, I bought it like when it first came out. I paid full price and do not regret. But the thing though is like, well, we could have a lot more Elder Scrolls if like the assets are done, right? It's like, okay, all the swords, the armor, the whatever. Why not have another story set in that location or whatever, right? I don't see a problem with that. You could just dump like a whole new set of quests in there. It would be almost like total conversion of, and just be like, yeah, this is Skyrim, like, I don't know, 5 years later or 5 years before or whatever, right? Just the Dragonborn character, you ain't there. So this is a new person, new stuff and whatever, and you might have some familiar NPCs around or whatever, but you could generate content. You could knock that out in a year because you're not making an engine, you're not making all the assets.
I'm honestly surprised they haven't done. I mean, they made some really good expansions for Skyrim.
Oh, absolutely.
Quite a bit. And I'm just wondering, it's just kind of fascinating that they stopped.
Yeah, or Fallout 4 instead of Fallout 76, right? Where it's like, again, well, we're going to do this whole new terrain, right? We did with West Virginia instead. They could have made that same game and dropped it right in the Boston map and been done with it, right? But they're doing this whole other map thing, and
well, it's also
like, okay,
it's also way bigger. It's like, I don't know how many times.
Well, and it has to be however many players. Like, what are they going to do? 24 players? Surely not 60 for consoles. But I don't know. I mean, it's cool, right? But it could have been like in that other world and done the same thing, and it would have been about the same to me. But I'm just saying it would have been a lot cheaper, right? But they're doing this whole dev cycle of this other thing. Well, if Fallout 76 like flops over and nobody really wants it, which could very well happen, that's going to be a problem because they've sunk a lot of resources into building that thing. So, you know, Bethesda, you know, that's half their game is recovering from financial crisis. So, you know, it makes them stronger, right? Was it Battle Spire is the one that damn near killed them the last time.
Oh God, Battle Spire.
Yeah.
Oh.
But you know, I mean, I am definitely surprised that more games don't reuse the same engine, the same assets, and bolt a second campaign on as DLC. You know, because like, oh my God, Alien Isolation, please, could we please just get a whole nother story in that space station or whatever? I mean, all the assets are there. You can bolt it together into different shape, right? It's a different space station, whatever.
But would gamers complain, this isn't new, I need something new? Like, would they
well, kiss my ass.
Yeah,
It's
they complain about it though, but at the end of the day, like, they want the same thing all the time.
I mean,
right.
how is it that, you know, every year it's another Call of Duty or another FIFA or another
Assassin's Creed?
Exactly. It's the same. Well, I wouldn't say entirely recycled, but mostly recycled formula, because
but
that's what
all
sells.
the assets and everything had to get done, and that's where the money is, right? It's like once you build the engine, that's done. And then you have to do the assets and then the scripting for the particular quests or whatever. But if you just didn't do the asset shit, you could have the art team move on, right, and work on the next big game. But you could drop an interim game, like, well, for Skyrim specifically, because people are hungry for that shit. So here's Skyrim 2, which is to tide you over until the other. But you know, it's like, okay, at first we told the story of this guy and these people. Meanwhile, living on the other side of the hill is another hero, you know, and now you can be him and experience the same place from a different point of view.
You can do that though.
Well, with mods and stuff, yes.
No. Because you can follow different paths each time you play.
Right. But I'm talking about like all that quest stuff is out of there, and they rewrite new quest stuff.
I mean, they can. I'm just saying, like, you can technically play through different ways and follow different paths each time.
They have a lot of opportunities to do stuff like that. Like in the Elder Scrolls games, when you become the head of something, like you become the head of the Thieves Guild or you become the head of the Mages Guild, it doesn't mean anything. It means nothing except you did a quest line and got like a piece of armor. Like, what if you had to manage the Thieves Guild? How awesome would that be?
Do you really want to manage a Thieves Guild?
I would love to have like a side game where it's like I gotta go back to the college and approve the new students for the next semester. I'd do the fuck out of that.
In fact, the Thieves Guild, they could just call the game that Thieves Guild, right? And then you run the Thieves Guild, and there's quest lines about that, and like rivalry stuff with the Dark Brotherhood and whatever.
And if you don't have that DLC, you don't even see any of that because you don't want to. Fine, whatever. But if I want to manage the Thieves Guild,
I don't even mean DLC. I'm talking whole standalone like $40 game they could drop, and it would just be like, okay, that guy became the Dragonborn. This guy becomes the head of the Thieves Guild. Or not, or whatever the hell you want to do. But instead of all that Dragonborn quest line,
I think you're wanting a Lords of Waterdeep version of Skyrim, where it's just like,
oh no, dude,
I'm playing the guy that sends the Dragonborn on his quest.
I kind of like that idea though. I kind of like that idea.
Think about the other stuff that they've made. Fallout Shelter, right? So what about Fallout Shelter kind of game? So it's a worker management sim, but you build that shit inside Skyrim, and then you can also go out and do things, right? But Yeah, but you would manage all your underlings too.
So it would be kind of like managing a village.
Yeah, exactly.
So you take on the head of one of the guilds in the town, and then your goal is to manage that section of that guild within the town, and then you help build up the town around you.
Yeah. Now, if you remember the previous game, Oblivion, they actually did drop. There was a DLC that was the Dark Brotherhood quest stuff. That was like one of the bolt-on deals, and probably the best part of that game too. And it's just like, well, dude, just spin me out a full on, like, it's basically you strip the main quest line and replace it, and you can even leave the rest of the world the same. I don't care, but you rip the main quest line out and just drop in another main quest line in its place, and then it's an entirely different game to me. And
so, this whole conversation has me thinking, though, when talking about all this DLC stuff, these are great ideas, by the way, Jim. I'm not trying to cut you off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a thing that modders have done, right? So it's not beyond the,
But this is kind of the crux of this conversation, really. When you boil it all down, it comes down to DLC for games is good and can definitely increase the replay value of a game more so in a single player experience than in a multiplayer experience where your main drive is purely multiplayer. So for example, we've talked about games where DLC can kind of be a hindrance, or like if someone else doesn't have the DLC, they can't play with you, a la like Battlefront 2 and apparently Grim Dawn. So like those kinds of things are kind of troubling because it's like, well, if I don't get it, I can't play with you. But when you look at games like Borderlands 2, for example, there's so much already in that base game that there's the drop-in, drop-out co-op aspect of it, and there's so much extra DLC that, eventually maybe your friend might get one of those side quest DLCs too, and y'all can go play that together. But it doesn't really matter because there's so much content that's already there. And that's kind of the cool thing about the drop-in, drop-out multiplayer mechanic of games that I think is way more appealing, especially when you look at it in terms of DLC versus like just a multiplayer game that's got DLC, is you can mix and match a lot more. And I think drop-in, drop-out co-op is like, prime for gameplay, which is something that I'm shocked, absolutely positively shocked, that Skyrim doesn't do or Fallout 4 doesn't do.
Now, I'll add that with Borderlands 2, if you don't have specific DLC content, the expansion content, you can't access those areas even if someone in your party has it. So that's kind of a gating off of things. But on the other hand, the game has been out for so long that if you get the Game of the Year edition, you have all of that.
Yeah, most of the time it's already really cheap to begin with at this point in time.
Yes, at this point in time, yeah.
Something brand new, though, I think Borderlands 2 might be just an exception in general, though, because I don't feel like in the beginning you needed all that DLC in order to have the same kind of fun.
Right. I mean, there's still plenty to do in the main campaign, even if nobody has that side DLC, that you can still do dozens of hours of just going around and having fun.
Yeah, exactly. So that's I think really kind of where it boils down to in my eyes, is the whole idea of single player versus multiplayer versus co-op. Most of the time DLC for single player games, you're not going to get hindered at all because it's not really going to affect, unless it's DLC that changes the game mechanics of the game itself into a completely other game, which you can talk to Cooper Fellow all day long about that with like King's Quest, or not King's Quest, but
Crusader
Kings. Jesus, I'm getting my genres mixed bad.
And what you mean is, if you talk to him about it, you all day long.
Wait, what?
And even to that, I'll add that part of the reason why they do that micro DLC stuff with Paradox, at least, is because it keeps their artists hired. It keeps them working. So when there's downtime in between working on the big main campaign stuff or larger DLCs, they can work on the micro stuff, and it still keeps their artists employed. So although it's not great that they have to do this micro DLC stuff, it's not necessarily a bad thing on the dev side of things.
Sure.
Yeah. But ultimately though, like if you were to buy, Crusader Kings or Stellaris back when it first came out, and then you were to buy it today, they're completely different games from when they first launched, and that's kind of good depending and kind of bad. And I to be honest with you, I couldn't recommend Stellaris. I think Cooper is saying the same thing right now. Stellaris at this point it no longer has an interest to me. At first, it was really cool and really interesting, and then I just think they kept messing with it so much. It's not even worth it. It's kind of like Space Engineers. Space Engineers is not even a fully released game, but like it keeps getting patched and getting messed with and getting changed, and it's just like there's a period of time where as a fan you just kind of lose interest because there's so much that just constantly keeps changing. It's hard to keep up or keep interested, especially when there's so many other games out there.
Wow, Cooper is saying Stellaris won't be worth playing, if ever, for another 2 years. Oh, man. Oh, wow.
Well,
he's like,
I suppose it'll be by then that they're done tweaking it, because when it's at the end of its development cycle, they'll have tweaked it enough that they're going to be done messing with it, and then people can go back to it. Which is kind of sad to say, but yeah.
By then, Distant Worlds 2 will be out, and no one will remember. No one will care about Stellaris. That's kind of what I'm hoping, anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll take Sins of a Solar Empire any day. Like, all of their expansions I thought were great. The modding community for that game is just phenomenal. It's like the total conversion mods for that game are like playing brand new games in that engine, and which is awesome. It's kind of like, you guys remember Age of Empires 2, and then they did that Star Wars
Battlegrounds, yeah,
which was in the same engine. It was kind of silly, but it was still a pretty decent RTS. At least I thought it was.
Yeah,
even though it was silly. And it's that kind of stuff that I think is cool, like taking those engines that work with great mechanics and just putting a new game on top of that engine. I mean, there's some stuff with those Star Wars games that DICE did with that engine where it's just like, man, can we just take this and make something just spectacular from it, please? Because I mean, it's got the space stuff in it, it's got the ground stuff in it. Like, that engine seems to be decently robust. So
it's quite robust.
Let's do something more than just make it look pretty and back and forth multiplayer matches.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that RTS has died out for a while, because the actual like Star Trek Armada 1 and 2 were quite good, I thought. And then
for their time, yes.
For their time, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you had the folks that made the Armada 3 mod, which is quite excellent for what it is.
Yeah, the Sins of a Solar Empire mod, Star Trek Armada 3. If you guys haven't played it, we recommend it.
Nerdman on YouTube says what we actually want is Elite Dangerous single player with mods.
Yes, and I can tell you
that would be great. Yeah, I
can tell you, I've got some friends who would love to be able just to have a single player version of that, to be able to mod it. There's just, unfortunately, like, Elite Dangerous is just one of those games I could not even remotely give two shits about anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally with you there. I just until they maybe do actual planetfall and like actual like inhabited planets, then maybe I'll try it again. But like I haven't installed it.
Guys, if you wait a year, they're going to put the mining thing
Jesus Christ, dude.
where the mining.
Here's the thing, and I'm going to get shit from the community for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't care. The thing that Elite Dangerous has going for more than the other game is that at least it has better frame rate and functionality, but that's all it has going for it over the other game.
Oh, you could say Star Citizen. Sure.
What? Star what?
What? Yeah. No, I would say Elite is actually a game, right?
Yeah.
And
barely,
and play
but
it.
yeah, it's barely.
I mean, what's there is there, and it works. It's just that it's spread very thin.
It's just a shame we can't get more people to play Jumpgate or Evercron, because they do a lot of the things we wish Elite did, but they're just not as.
Yeah, if Evercron had the funding to be as pretty as Elite,
yeah, that's a big part of it. That's a big part of it. Yeah.
But okay, my Elite analogy is, when you go to a restaurant and you get the butter, right, and it's like a little cardboard thing that's got a pat of butter on it, and then Elite's like, we have this really giant loaf of bread, but this is all content, so we have to spread that across, so it's like another game like Rebel Galaxy or whatever would have about the same amount of content, but they give you one slice of bread instead of the whole loaf to try to spread that across.
I like that analogy, actually.
Yeah, it looks a lot smaller. It's thinner, right? But
it's a more satisfying piece of bread. With more butter,
I just wish, I wish that what they would do is concentrate the content in a central area, right? Like, okay, here's your core worlds. That stuff is here, and maybe 20 systems or whatever. This is where the real deal goes on, because this is where the majority of people actually live. Mm-hmm. And then the further you get from that, the thinner it gets, until you're out in, like, let's just explore and I'm never going to see anybody.
But even then, though, Jim, what would you be doing with all those other people?
Well, same old shit. But at least, at least I wouldn't have to fly for like 2 hours to catch up to where my friends are.
I mean, if they had an economy that mattered and could be altered by players, you might escort a friend, with their mining thing, or you might.
Okay, let me.
So EVE Online,
Worlds Adrift. Okay, Worlds Adrift, which is a very simple game. You have a grappling hook. You can chop down trees. You can mine metal out of nodes. Okay, and then you build a shipyard and you stick that shit in it and you make parts, and then you Lego a airship together, right? Stick guns on it, and you and your friends jump in and you fly around and you fight other people and stuff. And it's the simplest of formulas. It's a very small dev team making this thing. They're like, I don't know, 2 years into it or whatever, and it's quite playable. And as soon as I touched that game, it was like Jim Flypaper. I was just stuck. And it's just like, I wonder what I should play. Hey, let's fire up Worlds Adrift. And then I got Dan in on it, and it's like, if I'm not playing it, then he's playing it, trying to drag me into it, right? So, and it's like the content's very thin, right? Because there's really nothing to do, and there's no economy, and there's no money in the game, and there's no store that you can sell anything or whatever. And that's stuff I hope that they do later. It would be very cool if there was like, pick this cargo up and carry it there, and you get a reward or something. But for me right now, it's enough just going around trying to find the parts for the ship, because you find them like in treasure chests that are hidden on the islands and stuff. And the whole time you're on the island, it's kind of like PUBG, right? You're looking over your shoulder, like, who's going to kill me? Like, can I park the boat and leave the boat long enough to go explore this island without somebody coming over here and stealing my boat? Which we've stolen several people's boats. It's kind of GTA up in there. But yeah, it's a thing. But if somebody steals your boat, it's just like, oh, you bastards. And then, it takes me like an hour to build another one, whatever. And it's as much fun building it as the whole rest of the game. So why not? Right. and I like it. And if Elite had something like that, but then they implemented the engineering stuff in the worst god awful way, right? It's like, well, you have to go around and like we're gonna random number generate whether you find these materials or whatever, and then you need like a giant freaking pile of them, and you take them to some dude and you play a slot machine with it, and it's like, oh my god, no. But if they'd have just done what this game does, perfect. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents of that. If you want more commentary about Elite, it's available in DLC.
Nerdman brings up a good point. He said that pretty much Independence War 2 is the game that Elite should be, basically. And
yes,
he's not wrong.
Yes. Well, it has the advantage. It has the advantage of being single player.
Yeah,
and it doesn't fall into. It doesn't have MMO-itis where it's like, hey, we killed the dragon. All right, next group, go and kill the dragon. Right? The dragon can't ever leave. You know, you can't ever change the world, and that's the problem. Is everything has to reset. It's like a theme park instead of an actual game. Which Frontier makes that theme park game too. Oh no.
Which is so it's so boring to me. Planet Coaster. It's so boring.
Oh, Planet Coaster seems like it should be great, right? Because like Roller Coaster Tycoon was super great.
But Planet Coaster is great.
The business management part.
Yeah, but Planet Coaster is great if all you want to do is design rides. If you want to manage a park, it's not that good. And that's what I want to do. I want to manage a park.
Yeah, it's not a great management game. No. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing the same thing about Jurassic World. It's not a great management game.
Now, Parkitect.
Which is dumb because that's the whole point of the game is manage the park.
Right. Now, Parkitect. That's the game you want. That's the game you want if you want to actually have good park management optimization stuff. That game is great. Plus, it's got the building. So,
yeah. Speaking of Jurassic Park,
yeah,
Hunter, you went and saw this thing, the new JP?
Yeah.
Okay, so not bad, or what? Because the world that I live in, everybody says everything is terrible all the time. Like you go on the internet, it's like it's the worst. So
here's what I did.
You have to change where you live.
Here's the short synopsis of what I did. My wife and I went and saw it, and we both went into it expecting to see a pile of garbage. I had zero expectations. I was just thinking it'll just be a fun popcorn movie. I'm not going to take this seriously. And that's the thing I think too, is too often people get caught up in just taking things seriously. And I allowed myself not to take this seriously at all. And I had... Well, see, the difference between Jurassic Park and Star Wars is I grew up more with Star Wars than Jurassic Park. And while I would say that Jurassic Park is definitely a core element of like what makes me growing up, because I saw a lot of Jurassic Park as a kid. Star Wars ultimately is like where it's my touchstone, right? Like where everything kind of falls off of in my nerddom and interests and my career path in life. Like everything hangs off of Star Wars in a way. And so my passion for where things have gone with Star Wars is rough because I've been such a longtime fan, and then where they decided to take it now that's under new management is not fun for me anymore, and I just decided to let it die. So we're on a tangent here, but with movies. But the thing with Jurassic World, Lost Kingdom, or whatever, I liked it. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was better than the first Jurassic World because the first Jurassic World there was definitely a few plot things that were just like they really stretched that out. Like they really had to try and make me believe certain things that just were really hard to, because essentially it was a remake of the first Jurassic Park.
Yeah, but to me, it happened in the same world after the first Jurassic Park, and I'm like,
right? You
guys really let them reopen this thing?
Right? Really? Yeah. So once you get past the dumb of that, this movie is like if you want to talk about a follow up to that movie, this movie actually is a great follow up. It does things better. It handles things better. Things didn't seem to be as dumb or obnoxiously in your face. I'm probably going to be able to find flaws with it later, like upon a second viewing. I'm sure there's definitely going to be things I'm going to find wrong with it. But if you just go into it and shut your brain off and just, don't take it seriously, you'll probably really enjoy it. I did. And this isn't really to give anything away, but they leave it in a place where I feel like they're going to take another film in a really unique direction. I hope they make another one after this, and I hope it's going to go where I think that they're insinuating it's going to go.
Yeah. That's
like
cool.
off the island.
Yeah, because the island's gone. It blows up in the movie. Like, that's in the trailer. Like, the island explodes. Volcano shit. So, like, that's in the trailer.
That's good.
So
it's like Star Trek, man. You have to blow up the Enterprise in every movie now. That's
well, where they leave this, my thoughts were post-apocalyptic. So yeah. I'm just gonna leave it at that. And it could, and that means like we could be getting into some like monster movie territory. So like that, I'm kind of excited.
That would be interesting if the dinosaurs continue to evolve, mutate and
the last 15 to 20 minutes of this film is straight up monster movie, and it's great.
All right, now you have my interest. So my thought was, okay, this movie happens like what, 5 years or something after the last 3 years, and it's like we're going back and we're gonna like steal some dinosaurs off that island or something, right?
And the basic plot is the volcano is gonna blow up the island, and there is like animal rights activists, and some people are thinking that these animals should be saved, and so their goal is to go back and save as many species as they can, and then other things happen. But
is there the evil government conspiracy to get there and get the weaponized dinosaurs? Because they were working on that in the first one, right?
I'm not going to get into spoiler territory, but there are things that happen.
Okay, because my thought is, it's been 3 years. You mean people haven't been snatching dinosaurs off this island fucking willy-nilly for 3 years? Because like every government in the world would be wanting to get in there and snatch a dinosaur.
Well, you have to understand,
maybe like, they did.
They don't go down that road, and I think that's like overthinking what they're doing with this movie. You could insinuate that there have been eyes on this island for a while, or that it's being protected somehow, or
my thought is basically just that island is not the only place the dinosaurs are. Well, that island is just the only place we know that they are.
I mean, I would love to see more fan fiction and lore from these movies. Like, I would love to see more. Because I think we should get back on topic, but the bulk of it is movie one, Jurassic Park, 1994 or whatever, was on the one island. You fast forward a few years later, they do the sequel, Lost World, which takes place on Site B, the other island, which had a whole bunch of other dinosaurs on it that were there. So they figured out that these dinosaurs were able to live because the enzyme that they needed to like live actually grew natively in the jungle. And it was kind of like Dr. Malcolm was right, life finds a way. My question is what happened to the dinosaurs that were still on the first island? Did they all live too because of this? So like, how did they reestablish that island again as a theme park? I'd love to understand that. And then in this new world, what about these other islands? Are there still things that are going on these other islands? Like, why is it so hard to think that they couldn't just like there were some weird, interesting things. Like, we know that there's another island close by. Why there's actually like a chain of these islands in this area. It would be nice to like kind of have some broader understanding, more deep dives into that. But these films aren't doing any of that. They're still focused very specifically into a very specific plot point.
Yeah. Well, they're not trying to be like super scrutiny tolerant movies either. It's just like, hey, this is pop
I feel like if they, because Jurassic Park 3 kind of put the nail in the coffin on doing anything with that, in my opinion, which is why it took so long for them to do like what they're doing now, because we're in the era of remakes and redos or reboots that are sequels that are reboots. So but anyway, so DLC, huh?
Yeah, it's sort of a prequel sequel. So
Yeah, we got to roll off.
What about that for DLC? What about prequel DLC? Right, like the campaign's over. You beat the boss. Now what can we do? It's over. Well, let's do a prequel. I don't know if
anyone's done that. Who's done that?
Borderlands did the pre-sequel.
That was actually its own game, but yeah, it was a pre-sequel.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
But that's another thing where you could do DLC that reuses all the same shit, because it really is the same location a year before the events of the first game, whatever, right? Like, because these games always set up like the Mars thing.
Red
Faction that just came out today sets up this deal of like, yeah, this history and the rise of the revolution on Mars, and we've had these wars with Earth and stuff, and now we drop the player into an existing situation. Well, there's plenty of prequel room there, right? If you want to knock a DLC out that's like, here's how we got there, and because for people that want more of that kind of thing, right? Like Warframe 2, you want to bolt on another chapter of single player campaign? Fine, do it. I would pay money for that. More multiplayer maps and stuff? Nah, I'm not paying for that. But if you bolt more single player on there, and if you had to do it as a prequel because we killed the big bad at the end or something and ended the universe, well, you'd have to do that. But I don't know, that particular game, that universe, you could do so much stuff. It's like I could see an RTS game happening really easy, or a turn-based like BattleTech-y thing, but it would be more like XCOM, but with Titans.
Well, they did an ARPG in that universe.
Well,
it was on consoles only, but
they did.
Okay.
Action universe. Yeah, you're using vehicles to fight in arenas.
Oh, weird. Yeah, I saw. Or are you talking on mobile, not console?
No, it's console.
I've seen the mobile game. Okay. Because there's a Titanfall mobile game as well.
No, I was talking about Red Faction.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I would love to see like that card game ported to the PC, the Titanfall one.
Yeah.
Because it's really good, actually.
Yeah, it's just like there is there are several different IPs out there that I think would support a variety of different games, and unfortunately they're underused, because it's like, no, we're gonna make the same Call of Duty every year. Right? And it's like, well, what about a Call of Duty RTS, guys? Come on, or whatever. But Titanfall's better for that because it's much more interesting. But that kind of thing, right? Sure.
And there are a lot of good games that I wish would get some more content, like 3030 Death War could definitely use some more content, or Rebel Galaxy.
Man, they're already working on their next thing, though. I'm not sure what it is.
And I hope it's something spacey.
Yeah, I hope so too. You know what I would really like is, and I've expressed this to them, but they're already like, oh, we're in the middle of the next thing. I would like 3030 Death War redone as a Subwar 2050 clone, right? So it's like not spaceships but submarines, but it's still top down, fly around. Instead of space stations, it's undersea bases, right?
Wasn't there a game
change the environment just as good?
Wasn't there a game like that called Subculture? I think way back in the day. I think it's an Ubisoft game. It's kind of like a third-person privateer underwater. Hello?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so it's a third-person privateer underwater.
Yeah.
Like when was this?
Oh, like 2001, 2002, long time ago.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, it's like I know about the. Whatever those other games are, there's like 3 of them that they sell on GOG. Can't think of the name of. It's basically Descent underwater, but that ain't what you're talking about.
No. Oh, 1997. Okay, a little earlier than I thought. Let me post this.
Oh, did you find the name of it?
Yeah, it's called Subculture.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah. Oh my god, it was developed by Criterion? I didn't know that. You know, the Burnout people. What?
Oh, hey,
Burnout subs.
speaking of sub games, Deluvion is actually pretty good. They're doing a lot of work on it, and they've it's nothing like the release version now. But Steam sale, right? It's $2.99 right now. It's 85% off. It's like, wow, man. If you don't grab that and you like any kind of steampunky submarine stuff, you're doing it wrong.
Well,
yeah, they just posted another update June 28th. They've updated the beta yet again.
Yeah, I've noticed their review score has gone up since last I looked, which is really good.
Oh, so beta's main quest line's now complete from start to finish. Fleshed out the abyssal trench. They completed the quest chain to the sunken coast, the abyssal trench. Items can be used in hazard battles. That's a whole new thing, right? Like whenever you stop somewhere, it used to just be like, oh, I docked, and then I talked to the one guy in the one room. Now it's almost like a dungeon crawl, kind of darkest dungeony. Like you put, here's my crew members I'm sending in there, and then you fight things and stuff in turn based. But it's not turn based. It's more like an old school Final Fantasy, right? Like here's my row of guys and there's that row of opponents, instead of being like a chessboard kind of thing, which I'm fine with. But yeah, so they fixed some sonar stuff, fixed some AI stuff, crew exchange, so you can swap crew in and out. Oh wow, that's really cool. So $2.99. That's my recommendation from the Steam site.
Or $3.74 for the Fleet Edition.
I'm adding that to my
which
cart
I think is
right
like
now.
a soundtrack or something.
Yeah, I'm adding that to my cart right now.
Yeah, I'll probably grab it.
Yeah,
Because why not?
if it's
I like
gotten better.
steampunk stuff. I like submarine stuff. Put the two together.
Exactly.
Bonus.
Yeah, I mean, I had it on my wish list for a long time, and then the release happened, and it just did
was
not
pretty bad.
go over very well. Yeah, but then again, now it's been long enough, it's probably worth another look.
Yeah.
I want Privateer underwater. That's basically it. Privateer
Who doesn't?
underwater with the
Well, I'm telling you, check out Subculture. That's probably the closest you're going to get.
If I could get it, where would you get it?
Abandonware. I hate to say.
Yeah, probably.
But that's your best bet. It's not available digitally, which is really sad. But it is quite a good game. I haven't tried to get it to run in a long time, so I don't know how successful it would be to run it. But it's a good game. So why don't we wrap up our DLC topic, and then let's move on to the topic real quick because the Steam sale's about to end. So let's think of like some last minute suggestions we could tell folks as to what to buy if they haven't already from the Steam sale. But I just wanted to wrap up the DLC. Folks, we talked about a lot of games that had good and bad DLC examples. Everspace is a good one. Stellaris is not a good one.
Starport Gemini Warlords is a good one.
Right. I would
Because
say.
that game,
What I
really changed up its
Oh my
DLC.
God. So what I would say to developers is if you're going to release DLC, either keep it like simple, like the expansion level content like Starpoint Gemini does, or if you're going to release a lot of DLC, do like some kind of pack or something where it's like here's the base game and all the DLC we feel you absolutely need to get the best experience out of it. You know? Like Paradox kind of does that, but like these packs are so out of date. That's like, what's the point?
Yeah, I think once a game hits a certain price point and it's like, well, we could make the game cheaper and continue to sell it, or we could just do a roll up. Like, here's the game and all the DLC together in one wad, the gold edition.
Yeah,
bang, here it is.
Yeah, exactly.
For the price
It doesn't
of the
even have to be
original.
a gold edition. Like it could be like, here's the definitive edition we feel you'll get the best experience out of, and it's not even all the DLC. It's just like some of the expansion packs, or all of the expansion packs, or like some of the expansion packs and some of the music. But like, make it easier for customers to figure out what to buy, and then you do that, they'll buy the rest if they like the game. I think. It's just really frustrating when I see, like, especially Paradox make all this DLC. It's like, what do I buy? I don't know. People ask me all the time, like, if I was going to buy Stellaris, what would I get with it? Like,
yeah, that's a hard question.
It is.
So some of those games, it's like, like if you're asking me, hey, I'm gonna get like Endless Space 2, what DLC? All of it, right?
Yeah,
that's
like,
easy.
I'm gonna get Endless Legend. Which DLC should I get? Just get all of it. There's like 4 of them. Just, they're worth it. Or I think one of the best examples is Age of Wonders 3. Because those expansions there's only like 2 or 3 of them. They all add a ton of stuff, like new races, new maps, new all kinds of stuff. And that's just easy. It's like, and like, that's been on sale for like $12 for everything. And that's like an easy sell. So
yeah, I like those definitive edition roll-up deals where it's just like, okay, the original game was $60, but now it's $40, but it includes, like 2 season passes worth of stuff in there as well, right? So, and you get it cheaper than buying the base game and then sticking the DLC on it afterwards. But if you want it really cheap, you just buy the base game, right? The like crowning example of this is that zombie game. Dying Light is amazing for this because they put a bunch of DLC. Well, you can't even buy the base edition anymore. Now you get like the ultimate edition. Like, bam, there it is.
Right, and it's been on deep sale. It's been on deep sale many times.
And they're continuing to put DLC out for that thing free.
Yeah,
which is really impressive.
12 months of DLC, one DLC a month, and they're already working on Dying Light 2, and that changes things up tremendously.
It does.
I mean, the choices you make in that game will determine how the city you're in changes. What factions have sway over certain areas. Oh. The aesthetics change depending on who is actually in control. There's a whole bunch of branching stuff that they've done with it.
Yeah, the one example that I saw, it was like, so there's a quest, right, where there's like the military faction versus some other faction, and there's a water tower. And if you do the mission and you free the water tower from the military people, then everybody has the water, right? But the military is gone. So then you get invaded a lot more and the zombies get worse and stuff because the military is gone. Or you can help the military. And if that happens, then the water tower is firmly under military control, but then they're rationing water out and like selling it to the people that can afford it, kind of thing.
Oh, it's the reverse. It's if you help the peacekeepers, as they call themselves, or what pass for peacekeepers, everybody has access to the water, but it is rationed. If the bandits have it, you got a black market instead.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and you get water everywhere that you can drink if you to survive if you help the peacekeepers. But then again, they're kind of stuck on order, and they're really authoritarian.
This sounds amazing.
There are trade-offs to working with certain factions. Yeah, this game is going to be amazing.
Okay, let me
Brotherhood of Steel all the way.
Let me ask you about Dying Light, because I tried it and it's like the only game that's ever made me motion sick from all the parkour stuff. Is there a way to tone that down?
I'm not sure, really.
Yeah, I don't know in that case.
Because it's first person, you can't really...
Yeah, I'm going to find out, because that's
all a game sounds that almost
like right up my alley.
Yeah, that game would definitely benefit from third person, I think. For specifically that reason.
Yeah, I agree.
Like trying to jump around like it's freaking Mario Brothers, and I'm doing it from first person. It's a little harder than if you're doing it third. But yeah, but my immersions, man. So whatever.
And the parkour stuff is even taken up a few notches in the preview video they've shown for Dying Light 2. So yeah, might be a problem.
I'm going to see if anyone has any suggestions for how to combat motion sickness in that game, because I actually refunded it because I really love the idea of it, but
it might be like narrow down your field of view some.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask about that, because this sounds right up my alley, you know, and it sounds like they're doing DLC right, you know. So you want to support a game that has
and it has co-op. It has co-op, so that was the
does?
reason I suggested getting it. Yes.
Oh,
yes, it does.
Well, there's a lot of people asking about that.
What, motion sickness?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, if you Google Dying Light motion sickness, there's a bunch of people that are asking about it.
Oh my God, there are.
I'd imagine it's along the same lines of motion sickness people got from, say, Mirror's Edge because of the parkour and being first person.
You know what's weird? I played Mirror's Edge after this to see if I would still get motion sickness, and I didn't. I was very much relieved. So there's something different about Mirror's Edge that I can handle. I think
so. These guys are saying
it might be the bouncing around.
Motion. Yeah, they said disable motion blur in video settings, which I would never know, because that's literally the first thing that I do every time I start a game is I look for the blur and turn it off. And I saw like an hour-long video from somebody trying to like be an apologist for motion blur and how, well, old motion blur was terrible, but new motion blur is essential. And it's like, kiss my ass. No, it goes like first thing, because it makes, dude, I'm running this game at 120 frames and then it looks like I'm running it at 10 because motion blur is on. It's terrible. But anyway, so they said turn off motion blur, turn off chromatic aberration. I'm not sure why, but okay. Disable film grain. Go to game options.
Film grain is the second thing to motion blur.
Yeah. And then increase the field of view all the way up. And it's basically like play with field of view until you're happy.
I think I found the actual post you're talking about. All right, I'm probably going to get this again because I really love the idea of it, but I got so much.
And we'll be able to play it in co-op because, you know.
Exactly.
Co-op.
That's co-op, exactly.
Yeah, because we've all got it.
So, so I think we had a lot of good and bad examples of DLC. Let's round the show out by giving, like, it doesn't have to be a space game. I mean, or maybe you can think of a space game and a non-space game, but if there's one game, okay, let's keep it simple. If there's one game that you would recommend someone buy on this particular sale that ends in 2 days, what would it be? Thoughts?
I'd say Everspace.
I have a list.
Well, give me like...
Well, Everspace right now, it's $20 for the Ultimate Edition, which includes the one DLC. And the upgrade to the Deluxe Edition as well.
It's $20 for that?
60% off of the Ultimate Edition, which is not a bad deal.
That is not bad. For all that? Yeah, that's pretty good.
And as I mentioned earlier, it's approaching the end of its development cycle, which means you're getting the full game. There's nothing more content-wise to get.
The game is dead. It's been abandoned. That's great. Every time something goes 1.0 now, it's like time to put up that game's dead. Came out of early access.
What about you, Jim? Any thoughts on like?
God, such the list. All right, I'll hit the highlights. Guns of Icarus Alliance. If you don't own it, It's dirt cheap. You must do this. Let's see. Hyperspace Dogfights is not on sale, but it's interesting. If you like Luftrausers, it's Luftrausers mixed with like Time Pilot or something. It's cool. So Worlds Adrift. Gosh, I'll bring that up again. By the way, Hunter, Dan wants you to play with us when we're done here. I got, I know it's the burden, right? Wonder Boy and Wonder Boy the Dragon's Trap was something I picked up today, and I was shocked. It's actually running the Sega Master System ROM underneath the game, but then they went and hand drew all the art to replace that like 2-bit graphics that it used to be. It's freaking amazing looking. It looks like a AAA PlayStation title now. So that's worth a look. If you're into classic stuff that looks really good. Let's see, Phoning Home, I haven't messed with yet, but it got super cheap and I've kind of had my eye on it. And the one robot looks like Wall-E, so it can't be bad.
One more.
Only one more? Oh,
yeah, because
okay.
we gotta get Hunter and me have a chance.
Okay, so this game is dumb arcade stuff. No, I'm doing 2. This one's the cheap one.
Okay.
Super Samurai Rampage. Just watch a video of somebody playing it. It's a samurai like chopping up everybody wave based thing that also has like bullet time pause in it, and it's very unique. I've never played a game that's quite like that. So there's that. And also, if you like Skyrim kind of things and you like a little sci-fi, LX is half off right now. And they've patched and patched and patched on that thing, and it has lost the majority of the Piranha Bytes Eurojank. And I put, I don't know,
still
4 or 6 hours in it.
I got an hour.
You will die horribly.
You will die a lot. If you don't like dying a lot, don't bother.
No, dude, it's okay. If you're into Dark Souls kind of combat, this is Skyrim with Dark Souls as the combat system. Because if you get good at the combat, and I've watched YouTube videos, because I'm like the first dinosaur thing I ran into, just one hit, I was dead. And it's like, how the hell do you people even expect me to do that? And I watched a YouTube video of a guy fighting it, and he's like, this thing's a bitch, but here's how you do it. And after watching it, yeah, I killed it first try. After watching the dude's video, because it's like a boss fight. It's got little tells, you know, it's like it'll hiss before it does this, and it's either going to go left or right. And if you double tap space, you hit your jetpack and you just go up, and then you look, did it go left? Did it go right? And then you can drop in behind it and get a free shot on it. And, you know, but it's a very Dark Souls kind of FU combat system that's going on there, but the monsters all have patterns to them. So, but it's not a thing where you just run up and just hold block and think you're going to live, because they'll bust your block. So you have to dodge and fight and actually like fight these things. And you don't have a lot of hit points. Like I said, the raptor killed me in one hit. So yeah, it's a thing. But honestly, with as many people that are as batshit crazy for Dark Souls out there, right? Why isn't there an MMO that has that kind of brutal ass combat in it? Do you think it would just turn off the majority of people? I think that's what the marketing people would say, is like, there's no market for this because that's very small. But if you look at the popularity of Dark Souls, it's like, nah, man, people like that balls hard combat. So maybe there's room for a World of Warcraft with really merciless combat in it.
Speaking of merciless combat, I got 2 more suggestions to toss in real quick. Dead Cells and Slay the Spire.
Oh, those are pretty good.
If you've played them, you know why I say.
Yeah, one game is like the card game of the other, almost.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good point. Hunter, do you have any
It's like
suggestions?
you went from Free Cell to Dead Cells.
Do you have any suggestions?
I haven't really been paying attention to the Steam sale this year. A lot of stuff going on right now, but from looking at what's on sale, I would say if you don't have Deep Rock Galactic, get Deep Rock Galactic.
Yeah,
it is 25% off right now.
I actually picked that one up, and the
It's got orbs in it.
The little robot that they give you when you play solo is really amazing.
And then my other recommendation is, if you have not somehow picked up a copy of the original Star Wars Battlefront 2, it's $4 right now.
Oh, really?
Mods for it are really fantastic. So the original Star Wars Battlefront 2, $4.
Yeah, definitely.
Download it. Get
definitely
some mods for it. Go have fun.
There's some.
Get the big mod.
Yeah, get the big mod that's like 10 gigs. It becomes the finest Ewok murder simulator you could like possibly find.
But it doesn't have Ewok Hunt. But then again,
Neither does Battlefront 2.
God damn it.
What is Ewok Hunt?
They added in this mode that was like nighttime on indoor, and your stormtroopers, and all you've got is your gun and your flashlights, and there's like ravenous little Ewoks running around that you have to try and kill.
It's basically Left 4 Dead, except instead of zombies, it's Ewoks, and you're trying to make it to the escape shuttle. And the Ewoks pick you off one at a time. Well, it's been in before, so I think they're rotating it to keep it fresh. It's like the McRib. It's like, it's back, so, yeah.
Shoot me.
Well, they're trying not to spread their population too thin. So they rotate one mode in, rotate one out.
Fuck it, dude. I'm sorry. Like that's just bullshit.
Well, I'm saying sorry. This is their faulty logic, not necessarily what's good.
No, I got it. It just it pisses me off, man. Like sorry.
That's okay.
It's because we got psyched up. We were going to play it, and then we went in on the day they took it out. And it was like,
Well, finally, folks, I'm just going to recommend a couple. If you don't have Starfleet Armada, it is 50% off right now at $4.99. And that is amazing. Like, utterly amazing. Children of a Dead Earth is about $13, and they just added a full
workshop and stuff.
Steam Workshop editor support. Angels Fall First is about $13. They just had a big update with new bot AI, which apparently is great. Drox Operative is $5 for the base game, which
$7 for everything. For the DLC.
And the expansion adds a new race. It adds bases. It adds all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot of good stuff to get. You can actually, if you go to the Space Game Junkie curator page, there's a scrollable list of what's on sale right now, and there's quite a bit. But so treat yourself to something a little nice, before the sale ends.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. No Man's Sky is not on sale. Oh, yes, it is. It's half off. Never mind.
Still not worth it. Sorry.
Well,
sure.
Okay,
I found it so boring.
The thing is, though, if you catch it while it's half off right now, because in a month, or at the end of the month, I think it's the 29th, they're dropping the next big expansion, which I guarantee it ain't going to be on sale that day.
It might be.
Or maybe it will.
They usually, a lot of people, when they have a big expansion or whatnot, they usually try and coincide with the sale. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of sale of No Man's Sky. What is it right now? Like $23?
Yeah, it's $29 right now.
Oh,
I got it for like $17.
It's been cheaper. It's been cheaper. You might want to wait to see if it gets cheaper than that. It's been down to like $18, I think. So if you can wait, get it cheaper. What were you gonna say, Hunter?
Oh no.
Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say before we wrap up, some minor community updates.
Oh God, right. I'm sorry. You wanted to talk about that. I am so sorry.
No.
I completely forgot about that. Please go ahead.
Oh, so some minor community updates. Of course, we have our Thursday LAN party, which we're playing. What game was it again? The
EDF.
EDF.
Right.
EDF.
Oh, I'm so there for that.
EDF's going to be a pretty good time. I don't know if I'll be there for that or not. It just depends. But it is a good time. It's a good game. If you guys have it, you are more than welcome to drop in with us and play.
Yeah.
That goes for any Thursday night. If there's room for you in the slot and you have the game that we're playing, you are all welcome to join.
Actually,
just let us know in advance, because that way we can make plans and accommodate you if we can.
We have to know how many pizzas to order.
That's right. How many balls, energy drinks we need to?
How many tables to set up and switches to buy? Anyway,
and then as far as just like reoccurring community stuff, we do have things going on in EVE Online and Star Trek Online. So if those games are an interest to you, we have small communities for both, but we're willing to accommodate new people. So if you're interested, we just had another
You said
person
someone joined today.
join up in EVE Online.
Someone joined today.
So,
yeah, that was pretty cool.
We got plenty of things going on. A lot of industrial stuff going on. A lot of PvE, PvP, industry. There's a lot of stuff going on in EVE right now with us specifically. And then, of course, we're always doing more holdings and Admiralty stuff and Star Trek Online. So it's a good time. So if you guys are interested in those, feel free to reach out to us. And so, yeah. So those are our current reoccurring games. We could always add others or do others later.
Oh, yeah. I kind of want to get back into Discovery Freelancer at some point. So, folks, just a couple quick programming notes before we sign off. As Hunter said and Spaz said, we are playing EDF 4.1 this Thursday afternoon for our Thursday night LAN party. Very excited about it because that game is just silly ridiculous. Oh my god, it's so ridiculous in the best way.
We'll have 4 people. Yeah, because it's crazy with that many people.
I'm excited. We are off next week again. I'm sorry, the summer is crazy. So I apologize, but yeah, we are off for another week next week. I'm going to a concert with the wife's parents. So it'll be fun, but yeah, can't have a podcast if not here.
Tell Neil Diamond we said hi.
It's actually Kristen Chenoweth, which I'm insanely excited about. And yeah, so that's what's going on. So thank you everyone for listening, and we had very engaging chat rooms tonight. Thank you so much everyone for giving us your thoughts.
Cooper said you failed to engage him. He's engaging you on YouTube chat.
He's trying to say something about there's a $14 Crusader Kings bundle, which there isn't, that I see anyway. I see a $50 Crusader Kings bundle. I don't know where that's going. But yeah, Crusader Kings.
What Cooper needs to do is make the definitive Cooper list of, if you buy Crusader Kings, these are the only damn DLC that you need.
That's a good idea.
Pick 3.
Yeah, Cooper,
pick 3 or 4 that actually make the game something, and omit all the BS ones, because he's the only one around here that knows them.
Yeah, Cooper, why don't you start like a blog/wiki of all your Paradox knowledge?
We'll actually add a Paradox chat back in here for you if you want.
He could, you know what? Register crusaderkingdom.com, and that can be his kingdom.
I wonder if that's available.
With an iron fist.
But folks, thank you so much for listening and watching. Patreon. Oh my god, I can't even talk. Patreon patrons, thank you so much for helping keep the lights on around here. And we'll see you next time. I think our podcast in 2 weeks, we're going to be talking to the creator of Hoovit. I think that's who we're talking to, which is a digital distribution platform for influencers. So it's going to be kind of interesting to get a perspective from that side of things. Because usually we talk to devs, we don't talk to people who dole out keys for devs. So that'll be interesting.
Right. So if you're a dev, or you know a dev, or you would like to know a dev, then you should probably listen on the 17th, because that's going to be the one.
Yeah. So thank you so much for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.